In this one West African nation, you can climb UNESCO World Heritage Mountains, find $2.3 billion in IMF funds, fueling a massive economic boom, and hear 78 different languages spoken in the streets. But beneath the impressive numbers and the beautiful chaos lies a history of stubborn rebellion, massive migrations, and a complex political struggle that determines the future of all of West Africa. This is Côte d'Ivoire, and it's much more than just cocoa. So stay tuned to learn more about it. Okay, so the first big shake-up happened around the 1500s. You know the mighty Mali Empire? When that fell apart, it sent huge shockwaves across West Africa. Basically, it caused a domino effect, sending these massive waves of migrants flooding south into the forest. So, the people who were already living there, they were either pushed out or just totally absorbed into these powerful new groups. Fast forward to the 1600s and 1700s, and things get organised. You start seeing really cool kingdoms pop up. Up in the northern savannah, cities bloomed around the super-tight Dioula trader communities. This is how the Bauna kingdom emerged, and later, the famous Kong kingdom was founded in the early 1700s. Think of these places like medieval intellectual hubs. They were hotspots of Islamic learning, attracting scholars from everywhere. Meanwhile, in the forest, things were also shifting. The rising power of the Asante Empire next door, which is in today's Ghana, pushed whole groups of Akan peoples west. That's how we get the Abron kingdom of Guiaman. And get this, even after the Asante conquered them in the 1730s, the people of Guiaman were so stubborn, they kept rebelling for years. Around that same time, another dramatic event happened, a royal succession crisis back in the Asante capital. Queen Abla Poku had to flee with her followers. She led them north and founded the Ball Kingdom, which became this awesome blend of Akan and local traditions. Okay, so at this point, do you notice anything missing in our story? You got that right. It's the European colonisation. Well, that's because for a long time, Europeans were a non-issue. Inland, the French and Portuguese were just hanging out on the coast, mostly trading ivory and enslaved people. But that changed in the 1830s when France's Louis-Édouard Bouet Willaumez started signing treaties with coastal chiefs to set up shop. It wasn't a clean sweep, though. France even backed off temporarily in 1870. But the French traders kept pushing inland, and they ran headfirst into one of the era's biggest forces, Samori Touré. He was trying to build his own Muslim empire and was fiercely anti-French. So he put up such a fight that he actually destroyed the Great Kong Kingdom in 1898 during his resistance efforts. Despite the struggle, France won, and Côte d'Ivoire officially became a French colony in 1893. But the real military occupation started in 1908. The governor, Gabriel Angoulevent, was pretty harsh. He immediately brought in forced labour and heavy taxes, which, surprise, surprise, ignited fierce resistance from groups like the Ball. Things got even worse during World War I when France forcibly conscripted thousands of Ivorians to fight overseas. That sparked new revolts, and while the French military crushed them, it clearly showed how fed up the people were. Then, after the war, the French changed tactics and started focusing on the economy. They built railways and expanded the cocoa and coffee plantations. And here's a really important fact. By 1939, it was African farmers who were producing the vast majority of these crops. And that's the foundation of the Ivorian economy today. Then came World War II. The racism and economic hardship under the colonial government during the war only made nationalist sentiment stronger. This brings us to a crucial moment in 1944, when a pivotal figure, a guy named Félix Houphouët-Boigny, co-founded the African Agricultural Syndicate. They demanded equal treatment and actually ended up sweeping the local elections in 1945. Houphouët-Boigny quickly rose to prominence and was eventually elected to the French Assembly in 1946. He successfully fought to abolish forced labour and helped start the African Democratic Rally, a major anti-colonial movement. He was also a part of the Évalués, the tiny elite the French tried to assimilate with their education policies. The idea was to create loyal administrators, but these people often felt caught between two worlds. Never fully African, never truly French. Ironically, it was this small, educated group that ended up leading the charge for freedom. Now, this long story culminates on August 7th, 1960, when Côte d'Ivoire finally gained independence. Houphouët-Boigny became the first president, and ruled until his death in 1993, creating a long-standing single-party authoritarian regime. Economically, they became a global cocoa and coffee powerhouse, but France kept a strong, quiet hold on banking and industry, even after independence. So while Houphouët-Boigny centralised power, that strong legacy of colonial control, corruption, and unresolved ethnic tensions was his unfortunate inheritance. Sadly, that legacy proved fragile, eventually leading to those tragic civil wars in the early 2000s. But when you look at that whole story, you can see how the country's complicated present is totally rooted in those ancient migrations, the powerful kingdoms, and the harsh realities of the colonial era. Alright, now let's embark on a vibrant journey through the geography of Côte d'Ivoire, a country whose landscape and climate tell their own captivating stories. So, first things first, where exactly is Côte d'Ivoire? Nestled on the western coast of Africa, this country shares its borders with a fascinating mix of neighbours. To the north, you've got Mali and Burkina Faso. To the east, Ghana. West and southwest, Liberia and Guinea. And to the south, it proudly faces the Atlantic Ocean, specifically the Gulf of Guinea. And this location, which covers about 322,462 square kilometres, or roughly about 124,503 square miles, is key to its amazing variety. Because now, I want you to imagine the country's actual shape. It's basically a vast, gently sloping plateau that runs from the north all the way down and tips into the ocean. Down south, the coastline is spectacular. You get a stunning mix of sandy beaches, peaceful lagoons, and even some dramatic rocky cliffs. Then, just inland, the terrain is dominated by dense tropical rainforests. This is the lush, green, humid part of the country. It's a true ecological powerhouse. Now, as you move further north, the forests gradually thin out. They transform into the savanna, a drier, more open landscape scattered with tall grasses and occasional trees. This zone acts like a natural bridge between the wet south and the drier regions up top. And if you head to the western border, you hit the Guinea Highlands. This is where things get rugged and mountainous, forming an impressive natural barrier. The star here is Mount Nimba, the highest point, proudly standing at 1,752 metres or 5,748 feet. And a little fun fact for you, it's actually part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognised for its crazy rich biodiversity. But besides mountains, Côte d'Ivoire has some major arteries flowing through it. We're talking about the Bandama, Comoy, Sassandra and Cavally rivers. These guys drain the central plateau and rush down to the Gulf of Guinea. Fair warning though, they're not exactly easy cruising. Waterfalls and rapids make serious river travel quite the adventure. And for those who love large bodies of water, the country also features important lakes like Lac de Buya and Lac de Kossu, which are vital for resources and local ecology. Now, because Côte d'Ivoire sits so close to the equator, the weather is almost always tropical, warm and humid. But it's not just one climate. The south is a classic moist equatorial climate. It gets heavy rain and has two main seasons, a rainy season and a break in the dry season. As you move to the north, the climate gradually shifts to a drier tropical one. This is why the forests give way to savanna. It's simply less wet up there. So, just to give you the big picture here, in one country, you've got everything. Stunning beaches, thick jungle, dry savanna, and soaring mountains. It really is a dynamic place. And this unique geography is why this West African country isn't just holding its own. It's leading the pack in the region, with some seriously impressive numbers to back it up. Let's talk growth first. Over the last decade, Côte d'Ivoire has been averaging a whopping 6.4% GDP growth annually. That's way above the global average, and it's no fluke. Because, for example, in 2024 alone, growth clocked in around 6.5%. And this momentum is powered by a mix of things: strong consumer spending, heavy public and foreign investments, and booming sectors like agriculture, energy, and infrastructure. Seriously, this country is really cracking the code on economic diversity. And a big part of this success is a smart partnership they have with the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF. They kicked off a multi-year program and secured over $2.3 billion in funds. This money has fueled serious structural reforms in governance and fiscal management, which is honestly just a fancy way of saying they've gotten way better at handling money and running the show transparently. And investors have definitely noticed. That's why you're seeing international finance folks lining up to get a piece of the action, resulting in things like Eurobond oversubscriptions and upgraded credit ratings. But here's the thing, Côte d'Ivoire is stepping up as a regional energy and logistics superstar, thanks to big new finds in offshore oil, gas and critical minerals like gold, coltan and lithium. The industrial sector is absolutely buzzing. The government isn't just interested in digging stuff up. They're also rolling out huge infrastructure upgrades like port expansions, which help the whole West African region move goods faster and smarter. Plus, they're committed to being forward-thinking with green energy. In fact, they have a $1.3 billion facility, with the IMF focused on resilience and sustainability. Now, you can't tell a full story without the fine print, because no matter how good this all looks, not everything is smooth sailing. First, a huge chunk of the economy is informal. We're talking about everything from street market vendors to small family-run farms that operate outside official government oversight. In fact, World Economics estimates the true size of the economy, including this informal sector, at an impressive $360 billion in purchasing power parity for 2025. But without it, the projection is around $95.46 billion. Second, although they are diversifying, cocoa remains the backbone export product. This makes the economy vulnerable when commodity prices swing wildly. Plus, like many developing nations, issues like youth underemployment and bureaucratic hurdles still cast a shadow on the growth story. But the government has a plan. They're focusing on education reforms, industrial policies, and a new 2025 to 2030 National Development Plan aimed at digitalisation and shifting production toward high-value goods. Which takes us to politics. And basically, things are a bit tense heading into major events like the 2025 presidential elections. The environment has become pretty tightly controlled. Because when key opposition candidates are disqualified, it raises big questions about fairness and legitimacy. While large-scale violence is unlikely, we have seen unrest in hotspots like Abidjan post-election. Adding to the uncertainty are concerns about President Alassane Ouattara's health and age, which unfortunately fuels rumours about elite splits and the potential politicisation of security forces. What's most worrying, though, is how this democratic backsliding in Côte d'Ivoire is being handled. Regional bodies like ECOWAS and the African Union have often been muted in their reactions. And in a region already grappling with coups and constitutional crises, this sets a concerning example. In short, Côte d'Ivoire is a dynamic economy brimming with potential, with clear momentum that's built over a decade. But despite the optimism, they must navigate the challenges posed by an uncertain political environment. At this point, we've talked about the land and the money, but neither of those things means anything without the people who live there. So, imagine a country where an estimated 78 different languages are spoken. That's because the population of about 32 million people is divided into several ethnic groups. 5 of them include the Akan, Manding, Gur, Kru, and Southern Mandi. But despite this, the official language, at least the one you hear in schools, on TV, and in government, is French. And just like its languages, the religion here is also a beautiful mosaic. It consists of a vibrant mix of native practices and traditional beliefs, Islam and Christianity, mainly Roman Catholics. So what happens when a country with dozens of languages and deep spiritual traditions turns its attention toward making things? It absolutely bursts with art. Even the architecture is wild. Have you heard of the Basilica of Our Lady of Peace in Yamoussoukro? It's a Guinness World Record holder as the largest church in the world. Then, in rural areas, you'll still spot classic, practical mud and brick homes topped with thatch, connecting the past to the present. Beyond the structures, the art scene is incredible, especially among the Baoulé and Gouro peoples. We're talking about intricate mask making, sculpting, and weaving. Here, Baoulé masks are more than just art. They're seen as crucial connections to ancestors. And just as a fun little side note, the Gaynona mask means woman mask, but only men are allowed to wear it. As for fashion, it's a cool blend. While Western clothes dominate urban areas, traditional garb still shines, particularly women rocking vibrant Pagna fabric, wrap skirts and matching headscarves in the countryside. And men often wear elegant, long robes, like the beautifully crafted beat outfit, for celebrations. And speaking of celebrations, there's one non-negotiable for every festivity, and that's food. Ivorian cuisine is fantastic, sharing flavours with the wider West African plate. Staples like rice, millet, yam and cassava form the base of most meals, spiced up with proteins like pork, chicken and fish, and fresh veggies like okra. That's why you absolutely have to try these iconic dishes. Mafi, which is a rich, hearty peanut sauce cooked with meat. It's basically a hug on a plate. Kedjanu, a spicy chicken and veggie stew, slow cooked to perfection. Riz gra, which is translated as fatty rice. This is a special, tangy take on jollof rice. And atieke, a delicious couscous-like side made from grated cassava root. And interestingly, many locals prefer to eat with their hands. It's a way to truly mix and experience the flavours, especially with dishes like atieke. So are you ready to immerse yourself in all the tantalising food, stunning art, and dynamic culture Côte d'Ivoire has to offer? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, you're going to love this next one.